Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? There is a little bit of news being reported today. Mike Scarborough had it first, but a football scoop reporting today that Brian Kelly is targeting Kentucky defensive coordinator Brad White to be his new defensive coordinator at LSU. The report from Football Scoop is that White was in Baton Rouge on Monday, and that, as I'm reading here, a deal could come together quickly if White believes he would be a fit for Brian Kelly's staff. So that's the report today from Football Scoop that that they are zeroing in on Brad White. A couple of things here. Some might have assumed a bigger name for LSU's DC, and again, it's not done as of right now, as we're doing this live here on air. But Brian Kelly, here's what I'll say: Brian Kelly, throughout his career, has earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to hiring. Brian Kelly has a proven track record of hiring very good assistants. That's the opposite of where this program was with Ed Orgeron, and you all know the list. If it was Matt Canada or Bo Pelini or Jerry Sullivan or Scott Linehan or Jake Peets, over and over again, Ed Orgeron swung and missed on hires, which led to very natural and deserved skepticism on hires. With Brian Kelly, it's the opposite. So in many respects, when we talk about Brian Kelly changing the culture, not just within football ops or within his team, his roster, his coaching staff, it's going to be with the fan base as well, because we've got to recondition ourselves now to believe that the hire is going to be a good one, because this is a guy who's earned the benefit of the doubt over 4 decades. Look at Brian Kelly's defensive coordinator hires at Notre Dame. The first coordinator he hired when Brian Kelly took over that job was Bob Diaco. Bob Diaco was there from 2010 to 2013 and led Notre Dame to some great defenses, so much so that he was hired as the head coach at UConn after he left Notre Dame. So he went from Notre Dame DC to UConn head football coach. When Diaco left, they replaced him with Brian Van Gorder. Now, you might remember Brian Van Gorder, who was with the Atlanta Falcons, and this is largely regarded as the worst hire of Brian Kelly's time at Notre Dame. They had some good defenses, but by and large, they struggled. He was there from 2014 through 2016. He was fired like 4 games into the 2016 season, and they replaced him with Mike Elko. And this started a really good run with Mike Elko, who was there only in 2017 and then was hired away by A&M. He's now Duke's head coach. Clark Lee replaced Elko, was there for 3 seasons. He was hired away to become Vanderbilt's head coach. And most recently, obviously, was Marcus Freeman, who was there as DC for a year and is now the Notre Dame head coach. So if you look at it, Diaco, Elko, Lee, Freeman, 4 of the 5 DCs Brian Kelly hired during his time in South Bend became head coaches. The 4 that became head coaches were all hired in their late 30s at Notre Dame. Bob Diaco was 37 when Brian Kelly hired him. Mike Elko was 40 when he was hired by Brian Kelly. Clark Lee was 37 when he was hired, and Marcus Freeman was 34. Van Gorder was 55. So when Brian Kelly went young, ascending defensive mind, he hit with everybody he hired. Brad White fits that mold. Brad White is 39 years old. He started his career in college, coached lower-level college for a few years, went to the NFL, was with the Indianapolis Colts for 6 seasons, started as a defensive quality control assistant, moved up to linebackers coach, position grouping, and then jumped back into college at Kentucky as a linebackers coach, and then DC for the last 3 seasons. He did share defensive coordinator duties this past season with John Sumrall, who just became the head coach at Troy. But the first 2 seasons, Brad White was the solo DC. Then this year, he and Sumrall split the duties. Sumrall's now at Troy as the head football coach. So you're talking about a guy, again, late 30s, has experience as a major college football defensive coordinator, has NFL experience, ascending young coach. It checks the boxes of what Brian Kelly typically hires when he's hiring defensive coordinators, as what we've seen from his time at Notre Dame. Specifically with Kentucky's defense the last 3 years under Brad White. In 2019, his first as DC, they were 13th in the country in scoring, 21st in the country in total defense, and nobody scored more than 30 points. Nobody scored 30 points on Kentucky in 2019, Brad White's first year as defensive coordinator. It was the only school in the country that had that happen. In 2020, that was obviously a COVID year, but they were in the top half of the SEC in every major statistical category. And then this year, they were 32nd in the country in scoring, 25th in the country in total defense, and LSU got an up-close and personal look at Kentucky up there in Lexington on a day when it did not go well, and not much did go well for LSU in Lexington this year, and that was Brad White's defense. So if this is the direction that they go, Brian Kelly deserves the benefit of the doubt, like we said. It's a pretty clear indicator Durante Jones isn't going to be back in the DC role. And from my understanding, Brian Kelly and Durante Jones still have not spoken. I know this surprises some people, but everything I've been told from people around Brian Kelly and within football ops is that Brian Kelly is observing from a distance while the current he's going through evaluation of staff and roster, while the current guys in place are getting the team ready for the bowl game. So Brian Kelly isn't having sit-down meetings with members of the staff. I know it surprised a lot of people when RC was here last week and he said Corey Raymond never met with Brian Kelly. My understanding is that's been the case for all of these coaches. They've not met with Brian Kelly. He's allowing them to go through bowl prep, and he's evaluating the staff and deciding what he's going to do. And there's some attrition, like Mickey Joseph taking the Nebraska job because he didn't want to wait until after the bowl game to know. So you're learning some of that. Today we learned there was a report from Bruce Feldman that DJ Mangus will not return. That was to be expected, but he's out immediately now, and Carter Sheridan has been elevated from an analyst job to be the receivers coach here for the bowl game. Carter Sheridan is not going to remain in that role. And quite honestly, some of the word out of LSU is that Brian Kelly thinks they have too many analysts. So I think you're going to see some trimming of the fat there as well. It's his program. LSU has committed $100 million. They are tethered to Brian Kelly for the next decade. And you've got to let this man build the staff, build the culture, build football ops, all the support staff, on-field coaches, everything, however he wants to do it. Give him the autonomy to build this program the way he wants to do it and let him live with the results, good or bad. And it looks like that's the direction they're heading. So the report from Football Scoop, Brad White, looks like he's the target for Brian Kelly to be the new defensive coordinator. We'll see if they can get that deal wrapped up or if they ultimately end up going another direction. But a busy week here in and around LSU. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.